It's me again. But if this is your first time, oh yeah, how you doing? I don't know why it looks like I've just got out of bed. I honestly haven't. I think I always look like this now. It's age. Anyway, welcome to the video. And today I'm going to do this over a series of days, but it's the case of I had a Strandman chair, which if you haven't seen, I did the whole recovering of that in previous series. And I got the Pouf with it. Pouf. And I don't need a Pouf. I don't really want one, but what I do need is a piano stool. So kind of see where I'm going with this. So I'm going to turn this Pouf into a piano stool. So this is what I've got so far. What I should be able to do is take these bits out of the corners and then bolt the legs, the bottoms of the crisscross, because they've got a metal bit that run all the way along there. So I can put that directly like in here. So that will be all across there, that one will be all across there, bolt, or just screw, whatever, and then it'll be much better. But obviously I need to take this off as well. I was going to recover this just as a Pouf, but I just don't need why do I want a Pouf? I don't want a Pouf. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to recover it slightly differently as well, because this sticks out at the side here. And I'm not really asked about that. It looks like a pain in the arse to do. So I'm going to go for a completely different style. I'm not going to go with the beading along here. I'm probably going to go with like a Chesterfield style. I'm going to trim all the edges down so it's the same and it doesn't have any overhang on it. So it would just be a more simple, straightforward stool thing. That's the aim, right? That's kind of the aim. But, you know, can I turn this humble Pouf into a kind of piano stool? That's the money question, or whatever you say. What I'm going to start doing is just removing those goddamn staples. So yeah, let's crack on. So you can see there I've removed all the staples now. I've even managed to get these corner bits out, because again I'm going to put the legs in here, so I don't need these corner bits here. So that's why I just cut round this material, so I can start just peeling the material off. I'm going to leave the foam on the side because obviously I want the foam lice padding on the side, and I'm also going to like hit these out, bit of force. I think they're just stapled in, big long staples, so I can get those rest of those out. It's actually quite weird because this is the base part and now this is the cushion on top. But once you take it off here, which is the only way you can do it, there's no way to detach the two, it's actually got like a washable cover, or a cover in general that's got a zip on it. But what's the point in having the zip there if the whole thing is stapled on in the first place and you can't get it off without kind of really taking it off? It seems a bit pointless, but I can get rid of all this anyway. I don't literally need it, because like I said, I'm just going to be using this and I'll stick this to that and cover the whole thing, so I can get rid of this. That's what we're left with. You can see the overhang's actually quite big when you've got nothing on it, so it's quite a big overhang, but I'm going to trim it back. But what I'll do is I'll probably take this stuff off first and rewrap it back round it afterwards. Trim it all down. I'll just use a knife, cut it down, trim it so it's dead on the same sort of size as the two, and then wrap this back over the top of it. And yeah, then I just need to get my material. May have had a bit of an oversight with the amount of I've got plenty of material, but it's just whether it's all in one square piece that I'd actually need to cover the whole thing, because my leftovers are a bit weird because of the shape of the chair. So I might have to go for a different style. I'm thinking I might have to go for a different style. So what I'm thinking, I haven't cut down the top yet at all, so it's still obviously got an overhang. But what I'm considering is covering the top. I can still do the Chesterfield should I wish to, but I might just simply leave it as this, and then so have a flat top, and then staple it down underneath onto the base here, and then around this edge I can create a separate piece which I'll staple underneath, and then have a piped bit like this from the chair, so I can stitch in some of the rope, whatever it's called in technical terms. I can stitch in that, but then also use some of these finishing pieces, because I've got loads of those left, so then I can do those around the kind of the difference. So it'll be kind of like that along there, the piping along there, and then the bits, the little studs along there. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just making this up as I go along, but that's what I'm going to do. I'll be back. Right, so I have trimmed off the edges like this, so the excess bit got trimmed off. Then I added back on this padding stuff, so it's exactly, he says exactly, it's roughly the size of the actual bottom piece now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the piece of material to the right shape and size, turn over, put it on, and then I can start to staple it into the base here. So what I'm going to do is hang it over here, tuck it into there, and then staple it all the way around the edge. So I shouldn't have to actually do any sewing, he says, with this top bit. Maybe a bit of folding, we'll see. I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll see. Alright, so I have actually done the top bit. You can see here, I've got that all on and stapled down there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do some side panels. So I'm going to take this piping, rope, cord, whatever it's called, and I'm going to stitch that on the back there. So it goes round on the back, like that. That's the idea. So I've got these two sheets that are the same size as each side, so then I can start doing those. And then, so I might do them panel by panel, because then I can have the studs all the way along the top and then the studs down the side. So let's just crack on with these two side panels and see how they go on. Right, so you can see that side, I've done that side. Don't excuse the ends, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do similar to those. I'm going to tuck them both in on each other, so I'll trim them off, tuck them in, and then tap them down so they'll be like a nice butt against the end. But yeah, all I did was cord along there, the little pins, stapled the other side, job's a good one. So I will do the next side, and then I'll do the two end bits, and then we'll come together. Last bit to do, I'll show you where I'm up to. I've got the last like end panel bit to do, but I've got most of it done. I'm starting to get the ump because I'm hungry, so I'm going to finish this. And then in a couple of days the legs will arrive, I'll whack them on and I'll show you the finished piece. You can see from up at this angle, wrong angle, but that's, everything's stapled onto the bottom, and I just need to finish this one end piece. And as you can see, I've been tucking them in these ends like this. And then as I've done on this end, oosh, attaching them down. So that's how I'm going to be doing it. I'll do the same on this end like that. So I just need to do this last bit and then we should be sorted. And that's going to be where it finishes. Well, I say finish when it's got its legs on. So I wish I had more material, to be fair, because it was a bit of a push getting it all done with the material I had left. But it's come out okay. There are a couple of folds in it and everything. Not folds, but ripples that should come out a bit. But otherwise, I've pinned it in the way I wanted it to do. It's covered in the way I want. So, just need to put the legs on it. I'll put the legs on it in a couple of days when they arrive. And then at least I should have a repurposed Strandman Footstool Pouf that is now going to be my piano stool. So it's a few days later and the legs have arrived and I'm starting to put them together. This is the final piece and then this bit is done. Yeah. So this is the style of leg I went for. One of the things I didn't actually account for is where it hits the side. I got the 30 centimeters, which was perfect, but they do touch the side. So to make this easier, I just glued down some battens along the bottom here just to push this up slightly, which I think will be perfect. And now I'm just going to use some wood screws. I'm going to put a couple of wood screws in, even though I've glued it down on each side. And then I'm going to put the wood screws onto these legs to put it all in place. So let me do that and I'll flip it over and then we should be finished. And they're on. So they are not going anywhere. I've screwed it into there and I've screwed these in on each end and they are solid. But there is one thing that's really annoying. It's not anything I've done, funnily enough, but if you look at these legs, they've given you these like screw out legs that go on the bottom, but you might notice something, problem. Unless I'm being a complete idiot, right? So these come out that way, so if I put this in, it doesn't go straight down. Like, you see, oh, focus. It goes at an angle, so then it's at an angle because even though the bottom bit's flat, it's too deep, so it's never going to sit flat like that, which is what it should do. It's going to go in like that and leave a gap there, just like that, and be at a friggin' angle. So I might have to 3D print some caps to go on the end there. literally just some little plastic caps. So I might try and find, well, my mate's coming over next week and he's much better at 3D printing than me, so he can work out how to do that. But with the old piano there, should we put it in front of it and see what it looks like? I think so. This is like first world problems. I just smacked my head really hard. Right on there, like really hard. I could see stars. Still see stars. Anyway, I digress. For a repurposed Strandman Pouf, I think that has turned out pretty well. You know, I wasn't really planning on doing anything with it. I probably would have thrown it away. But now, I think the legs were €40. So for €40, I now have a new piano stool, which is exactly what I was looking for. Oh, look at that. So I think that's come out pretty well, considering. Is it perfect? No, but at the same time, it took me a couple of hours, and I think that's come out pretty well. So it's another thing ticked off my list, and another thing that I didn't have. I didn't have a piano stool, and now I do. Perfect. The next job on my list is finishing. If you've seen any of the other videos on this channel, you probably would have seen the Strandman armchair, and I've also started making a TV unit, and if you haven't seen that, it's just right at the beginning. I've cut all the metal out, but I'm going to give you a quick sneak preview of the wood that I'm going to be using for the top of the TV unit. So this is the wood that I'm going to be using for the top of that TV unit. How beautiful is that? So this has been sanded. It's really super smooth. It's been sanded, but it's also been burnt, because I use that Japanese wood burning technique, and then it's been stained and sanded on top as well. So this is how it's going to look at the end, but I think it's beautiful. It looks a bit brighter on the camera than it does in person. It's not quite as bright as that. It's a bit duller, but in a good way. So this is going to be what sits on top of my TV unit. So if you want to know what that is, give it a subscribe and you'll see. That's it for this one. Hope you've enjoyed my little piano stool, and let's see what I can build next. Fancy a sofa. I'll build a sofa or coffee table. I've got to build a coffee. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.